Welcome to the deep dive. If you've ever tried getting your head around UK benefits, especially something like personal independence payment, PIP, well, it can feel like a maze.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as people who've lived in London a long time and worked deeply in the benefits world, we hear constantly people just feel buried under the paperwork and the jargon that constant changes.
It's exactly why we wanted to do this today. Really cut through all that complexity. Our mission really for this deep dive is just to give you some clarity around PIP. It's such a vital support designed for working age people, so 16 and over,
Right.
to help with those extra costs that come with a long-term health condition or a disability.
And the absolute key thing, the message we really want you to take away about PIP is this. It's not about what condition you have listed on your doctor's note. It's fundamentally about how that condition actually affects you day in, day out.
Yeah.
That difference is just massive, and we'll keep coming back to it.
Definitely. So today we're unpacking it all. Who can claim, how that sometimes quite intimidating assessment process works, and also looking ahead, shining a light on some pretty big changes that are scheduled for November 2026.
Yeah.
We've drawn on insights from really solid sources: Citizens Advice, gov.uk, Unison, Advice Now, to try and bring you the full picture.
Our aim is that you leave this feeling, well, not just like you've got the facts, but actually empowered to handle the system.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts then. So starting right at the beginning, for anyone maybe new to this, what exactly is PIP, fundamentally, and who's it aimed at?
Okay, so PIP at its heart is a non-means tested welfare benefit. Now, that's really important right from the start.
Yeah, non-means tested.
It means it doesn't matter what you earn, what savings you have, whether you've paid national insurance. It's purely about your needs, your health needs, not your bank balance. It operates in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Scotland's got its own thing now, Adult Disability Payment, or ADP.
That non-means tested bit, it really is a game changer for so many people, isn't it?
It really is.
It means you could be working full-time, you could be retired, you could have, decent savings. But if your health condition impacts you enough, you could still be eligible. It's all about that impact.
Exactly. So let's look at the main eligibility points. First, age. You need to be 16 or over. For a new claim, you generally need to be under state pension age.
Okay.
But if you're already getting PIP when you reach state pension age, it can carry on. Then, beyond age, it's about whether your condition makes it hard for you to do everyday tasks or get around. And crucially, these problems need to have been there for at least 3 months already.
Right.
And be expected to last for another 9 months, so we're looking at a whole year.
A 12-month window, yeah. Are there exceptions to that rule?
Yes, there's a different, faster process if someone has a terminal illness where doctors expect they might die within 12 months. Different rules apply there. Then there's residency. Generally, you need to be living in England or Wales when you apply. And you need to have lived in Great Britain, so that's England, Wales, and Scotland, for at least 2 out of the last 3 years. They call it the past presence test.
And that time, does it have to be all in one go?
No, it doesn't have to be continuous. You could have been abroad for a bit within those 3 years, as long as the total time you've spent in Great Britain adds up to at least 2 years.
Yeah.
And very importantly, your immigration status must allow you to claim public funds. So that typically means things like British or Irish citizenship, settled or pre-settled status under the EU scheme, indefinite leave, refugee status.
Right, the usual routes.
Exactly. There's a full list, and some specific situations, like being in hospital or a care home, can affect parts of the payment. We'll link to the details in the show notes because it can get a bit fiddly.
Okay, this next bit, the PIP assessment. This is probably where a lot of people feel the most, anxious, I suppose. What's the absolute core principle people need to grasp going into this?
Yeah, it can be daunting. The absolute foundation, the thing to hold on to, is that PIP is not based on your diagnosis name or the medication you're on.
Right.
It is purely about how your condition affects you when you try to do specific daily tasks or when you try to move around. It's all about that real-world impact, your functional ability.
That's the crucial shift in thinking, isn't it? So it's not enough to say, I have arthritis or I have anxiety.
Yeah.
It's about saying, because of my arthritis, I can't reliably grip a pan to cook. Or, because of my anxiety, I need someone to prompt me to manage my medication. Is that where the descriptors fit in?
Spot on. The assessment uses a point system. It's split into 2 parts.
Yeah.
Daily living for everyday stuff and mobility for getting about. And for each type of task, like, say, cooking a meal, there are different statements describing levels of difficulty. Those are the descriptors. You get points based on the descriptor that best reflects the highest level of difficulty you face for that specific task. You don't add up points for being able to do it sometimes, but not others for the same activity. It's about the most significant difficulty.
That clarifies things. So it's about consistency, safety. What if you need help with something, but maybe you live alone, so you don't actually get that help?
Another vital point. It's scored based on the help you need, not the help you actually receive.
Right.
So if you need someone to help you wash, but there's no one there, you should still score points for needing that help. And also, if you can technically do a task, but only really badly or unsafely, or it takes you ages.
Or it causes pain afterwards.
Exactly. Or pain, or exhaustion, or makes your condition flare up, then the guidance says it should be treated as if you can't do it reliably. And this absolutely includes mental health impacts and side effects from medication. Needing prompting, encouragement, supervision because of anxiety or cognitive issues, that all counts.
So how do these points add up to actual money?
Okay, so you need 8 points to get the standard rate for either the daily living or the mobility unit, and you need 12 points to get the enhanced rate.
Okay, 8 for standard, 12 for enhanced.
Yeah, and for the 2024-25 financial year, the weekly rates are around £72.65 for standard daily living, going up to £108.55 for enhanced. For mobility, it's about £28.70 standard and £75.75 for enhanced. We'll pop the precise current figures in the show notes for you.
Could you maybe give a quick example, just to make it concrete, how my points work for one activity?
Sure. Let's take preparing a simple meal. If you can manage fine on your own, that's 0 points. But if you need prompting to start and finish a meal, that might be 2 points. If you need supervision or assistance, perhaps 4 points. And if you just cannot prepare and cook food at all, even with help, that's 8 points.
Yeah.
Or for moving around. If you can walk more than 200 meters reliably, that's 0 points. But if you can only manage between 20 and 50 meters, that might score 8 points. If you can't stand and move more than 1 meter, that's 12 points, the enhanced rate. It shows how specific it gets.
It really does. Okay, so understanding the rules is one thing, but actually going through the application, that's often where people hit a wall. Where do the challenges tend to lie, and what's the best way to even kick off a claim?
Yeah. Just starting can feel like a hurdle. The main way, and usually the quickest, is to phone the PIP New Claims line. You can do it by post, but it definitely takes longer. And they are piloting online applications in some areas, so it's worth checking the gov.uk site to see if that's live where you are. We'll put all the contact numbers and links in the show notes.
And before you even call, what info should you have handy?
Good question. Have your contact details, obviously, your national insurance number, your bank account details, your GP or main doctor's information, and any key dates, like if you've been in a hospital or a care home or spent significant time out of the country.
Okay.
Once you've made that initial contact, they'll usually send you the big form, the How Your Disability Affects You form, often called the PIP2. You normally get about 2 weeks. You get it within 2 weeks, and then you usually have 1 month to fill it in and send it back. And this form, it's absolutely crucial.
Right. This sounds like the core of the application. What's the key to filling this beast out effectively?
Supporting evidence. That is paramount. Don't just rely on your own words, back them up. We strongly, strongly advise including letters, reports, care plans, anything relevant from health professionals. GPs, physios, occupational therapists, mental health workers. And the advice from Citizens Advice here is golden. Ask your professionals to focus specifically on how your condition impacts your ability to do those 12 daily living and 2 mobility tasks. Not just confirming you have X diagnosis, but the impact on those specific PIP activities. That's what the DWP assessors need to see.
And I've heard, especially if your condition changes day to day, keeping a diary can be really powerful.
Absolutely. A PIP diary, maybe over a week or 2, showing the good days, the bad days, the struggles. It paints a much clearer picture for the assessor than just trying to average it out. It shows the reality.
Good tip.
And another tip, don't panic and delay sending the form back if you're still waiting for, say, a hospital letter. Send the form in on time and just state clearly that further evidence will follow. You can send it in later. Oh, and maybe ask your doctor or physio to send their report to you first. That way you can check. It focuses on the right things before you forward it to the DWP.
Makes sense. So form submitted, evidence sent. Then comes the assessment for most people. This seems to be the bit that causes the most stress. What should people realistically expect?
Yeah, most people will have one, unless they fall under the terminal illness rules. It's really your chance to explain, in your own words, how things affect you. Remember, it's not a medical exam to diagnose you.
It's a functional assessment.
Exactly. It's about function, and they can happen over the phone, sometimes by video call or face-to-face at an assessment center.
So preparation is vital again.
Absolutely vital. Take a copy of your PIP2 form with you, the one you filled in, refer back to it, and please, don't just give yes/no answers.
Elaborate.
Yes. Explain the detail. If doing something makes you exhausted for hours afterwards, say so. If you can only do it once but not repeatedly, explain that. The assessor will also be noting down observations, how you seemed, maybe how you got to the center if it's face-to-face. So be honest. Don't try and put on a brave face or push yourself to do things you wouldn't normally manage.
That's really important advice. Should people go to these assessments on their own?
If you can possibly avoid it, we'd strongly advise taking someone with you.
That's
A friend, a family member, a carer, anyone over 16. They can offer support, they can take notes for you, they can even chip in if you forget something important. And remember, you have rights regarding the assessment itself. You can ask for adjustments.
Like what?
Things like needing a ground floor room or lift access, maybe a quieter space if you have anxiety, an interpreter if English isn't your first language, even requesting an assessor of a specific gender if that's important for you. You can also ask for the assessment to be audio recorded.
Which could be useful later.
Immensely useful, yes, especially if you end up needing to challenge the decision. You have to request these things in advance, though.
Okay. And critically, don't miss the appointment.
Absolutely critical. Missing it without a very good reason and without telling them beforehand if possible can mean your claim just gets stopped. You can reschedule, but you need a solid reason. Oh, and don't forget, if you travel to a face-to-face assessment, you can claim back your travel costs. Ask for the expenses form when you're there.
Right. Good practical tip. Now, let's move on to challenging a decision. Because, let's be honest, a lot of claims get turned down initially or people get awarded less than they think they should. It can feel crushing.
It really can.
But from our experience, yours and mine, working as benefits experts, we know this. Getting refused or getting a lower rate than expected does not automatically mean you're not entitled. We have seen so many decisions overturned on appeal.
That's such an important message. Don't just accept the first no. The first step you must take is to ask for a mandatory reconsideration, or MMR. You usually only have 1 month from the date on the decision letter to ask for this.
Only a month. That's tight.
It is tight. Now, a slight word of warning, it's rare, but challenging a decision could potentially lead to an award being reduced or stopped. It doesn't happen often, but people should be aware it's a possibility.
Okay. So if you decide to go for the MR, how do you actually do it?
The best way is definitely in writing. Send a letter to the DWP explaining exactly why you think their decision is wrong. You can phone them, but always follow up in writing or keep a very detailed note of the call.
And what should that letter say?
Be specific. Go back to those activities and descriptors. Say, for activity X, I believe I should have scored Y points because... And then explain what evidence or information you think they overlooked or didn't understand about your condition's impact. Refer back to your form, your evidence, maybe include new evidence if you have it.
And what if you missed that 1-month deadline?
You can sometimes ask for an MR later, up to 13 months after the decision, but only if you have a really good reason for being late. Things like being seriously ill, dealing with a bereavement, getting incorrect advice, problems with the post. You have to explain why you were late and ask as soon as you possibly can.
Okay. And if the mandatory reconsideration doesn't change the decision, or not enough, what then?
Then the next stage is to appeal to an independent tribunal. And this is where that statistic comes in that just floors me every time.
Success rate.
Yeah. In 2018-19, which is the most often quoted figure, 75%, 3/4 of PIP appeals that went to a tribunal were successful.
75%. That's huge.
It's massive. It tells you that the initial decision-making and even the MR stage often gets it wrong. For every 4 people who appeal, 3 won. It absolutely shows why it's worth pursuing if you genuinely believe you meet the criteria.
That figure alone should give people the determination to keep going. So beyond don't give up, what's the single best bit of advice for someone staring at that initial refusal letter?
Get advice quickly from somewhere like Citizens Advice or a local advice agency or a disability organization. Understand why they refused you, look at the assessment report if you can get it, and then systematically build your case for the MR, focusing laser sharp on those descriptors and your evidence. Preparation and clarity are key.
Absolutely. And speaking of preparing, we need to talk about the future now because there are some really significant changes looming. These were announced back on March 18th, 2025 by the Westminster government, and they specifically target the daily living part of PIP, kicking in from November 2026. You really need to know about this.
Yeah, this is a big shift. So right now, to get any rate of the daily living component, you need to score at least 8 points, and those points can come from adding up scores across several different daily living activities.
Okay, so you might get 4 points for washing and 4 for dressing, making 8.
Exactly. But the new rule, starting November 2026, says you will need to score a minimum of 4 points from one single activity just to qualify for any daily living payment.
Wow. So you need a more significant level of difficulty in at least one specific area, rather than moderate difficulties across several areas.
Precisely. It's a much higher threshold in one sense. It's important to note, though, that the mobility component rules are intended to stay as they are. This change is focused purely on daily living.
So what's the expected fallout from this for people with disabilities?
Well, the prediction, certainly from organizations like the union Unison, is pretty stark, they've said. Many disabled workers could lose the financial support which currently enables them to cover the extra costs of living with their disability and stay in employment. It basically means fewer people are likely to qualify for the daily living part.
Right, which leads to some urgent advice.
Absolutely. Based on what Citizens Advice and others are saying, if you think you might be eligible for PIP now under the current rules,
Apply now.
apply now. Don't wait. You stand a better chance statistically of qualifying before these tighter rules are introduced in November 2026.
And it's not just about individual action, is it? There's campaigning happening too.
There is. Groups like Unison are actively challenging these changes. They're gathering evidence from their disabled members, asking how the changes would affect them, to build a stronger case, to push back against what they see as harmful cuts. So adding your voice to those efforts can also make a difference.
Okay, so Red's wrapping up this deep dive then. The key message: PIP is absolutely vital support if you have extra costs because of a long-term health condition or disability. Getting it right depends on really clearly explaining how your condition affects you, using those points and descriptors as your framework. And please, don't be put off if you get turned down at first. There are clear steps to challenge it, and as we've seen, those challenges are very often successful.
And perhaps as we think about these changes and the ongoing debates, it leaves us with a question to ponder. What fundamental parts of living with a long-term health issue or disability do you feel are still just not properly understood or are maybe overlooked by the systems designed to support us? Something to think about.
That's a really important question. If today's deep dive has raised things for you, or if you need some help perhaps navigating a PIP claim, please remember those brilliant resources: Citizens Advice, Unison, Advice Now. And also, we genuinely love to hear your thoughts or any questions you might have on our new Facebook page. The link's right there in the description below. Our in-house expert can offer some general guidance there too. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.